Well, a whole lot to be grateful about. A new day, yeah, in the morning where we begin the show right here in Global TV. Hello and welcome to Global Morning. My name is Edika Michael and a pleasure to have you tune into our station this morning. Of course, I'm not going to be doing these alone. I have my colleague with me. Good morning, Jumai Manson.
Good morning.
You know, the way you normally do that pronunciation, some people said it's always very beautiful
Are
and
you
unique
serious?
about it. Do it again, do it again, do it again.
I am Jumai Manson.
Oh, Lord, maybe I'm gonna come for a tutorial for that so that you can actually get me through how to have another pronunciation.
It's great to have you on the
It's a
program,
beautiful morning,
Michael. It is.
Jumai. I mean, when you look at what many Nigerians seems to be going through at this phase of hardship, inflation, crisis of food, and all of that. So
Exactly.
we should be grateful that we are still pushing. Many Nigerians are still showing their resilience, you know, in the midst of all of these issues.
It's very important that we should stay grateful of our game. We should always be thankful. Because if you feel you have a problem, there's someone that has a much bigger problem than you have. So it's very important that you stay grateful and thankful despite all of the happenings making rounds. But we should be thankful. It's okay.
Absolutely. Of course, just yesterday, the Minister of Finance said that President Tinubu will be visiting the issues of whistleblower policy in terms of trying to fight corruption and avert all of those practices. So there is a move already to begin that process and what it means so that people can have protection for them to be able to speak out on what is going on in their institutions. So I feel that is a way to go so that, you know, part of the problem we have is the institutional issues we have. So
Yes,
sometimes the system is encouraging people to do all of this. But I mean, when people start speaking and they are protected, I feel we're going to have all of these issues to deal with.
It's very important. It's a step in the right direction. People can air their views, speak their minds, and talk about pending issues in various sectors, things that are not being right towards what the government believes and all of that. So it is a step in the right direction. That is one policy that should be revisited. It's very important.
A very beautiful one. Of course, we know that the papers today has all of those headlines and those stories, which you will definitely want to catch up with. So, of course, we'll be bringing those stories and headlines to you very shortly after this break. Do stay with us, please. Well, to help you stay informed on what is happening in the country, and most especially what we have on the headlines this morning, I'm being joined by the founder, co-chair of Peace Foundation, Farouk Akawalisa. Of course, adding voices to the reviews or the headlines this morning. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Mike.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right, the first headline of the day will begin with the Daily Trust. And the star story there says flooding kills over 170 in 15 states. And below the kicker there, it says kidney harvest, federal government suspends doctors accused in Daily Trust report. NCC set September 14th as final deadline for SIM-NIN linkage. Fresh diphtheria outbreak claims 40 lives in Kano. NatCon needs systematic reforms, and that's the presidency. And those are the stories making rounds on the Daily Trust. Let's talk about kidney harvest a bit. Federal government suspends doctor accused in Daily Trust report. What's your take when it comes to kidney harvest? So that's one of the things that the money making institute, I would say, for doctors. A lot of people are involved when it comes to kidney harvest. What's your take on that particular caption?
Yeah, I think to me the issue of organ harvesting is becoming more like an organized crime that needs to be tackled as a matter of urgency, because such act is unjustifiable by any cultural or moral means. We begin to see these kind of issues happening in Nigeria in recent times. There are several reports, coming from different regions, how people are being, and you can find out that it's like more of transition of, human trafficking. Yes, so it's like an advanced form of human trafficking, because most people that are victims of organ harvesting, they are not aware. So they were being lured into this kind of, becoming a victim of organ harvest, and we cannot continue seeing such a things happening in Nigeria. So, and in a case or a situation whereby it is involved, maybe like an accusation involving a medical practitioner, you begin to wonder where the ethics of medical services and how the federal government of Nigeria can actually look deep down into the matter and see how they can control the menace.
Okay. Now, I don't know if Michael has any questions to ask, but I wanted to talk about the NCC set September 14th as final deadline for SIM-NIN linkage. Do you think we're going back and forth when it comes to SIM-NIN, given that uncertainty whether this is going to actually take place or not? We see the dates keep changing. We keep going back and forth. They keep giving us 3 months extension, 6 months. Like so many Nigerians, when you look at the queue, when you go to these NIN offices, and when you talk about all of these things, most Nigerians are actually tired. Because is it that we do not have an appropriate data when it comes to NIN and, of course, our SIM linkage together? What's your take?
Well, I think the communication infrastructure in Nigeria, especially when it comes to the regulators and how they go about this issue of registration of SIM card, you can find out that even the issue that has to do with insecurity in Nigeria, one will begin to wonder whether this issue of registration of SIM card are actually, being done in a best way that actually provides the real solution that the country needs. Because even when people have registered their SIM card, they find out that they still fall victim of one
Very true.
scam or the other. People who are involved in kidnappings still make use of phone calls, and it has not been able to trace them. And so it is just you need an overhauling of that system in a way that actually provide the real service, to the populace. Otherwise, the idea of going back and forth with deadlines is something that is not consistent, and we have seen it over time.
Very true.
So if they are not taking this thing as as serious as it should be, you can find out that even the deadline they are giving you, they are not going to meet up with it.
Not consistent.
It's not consistent. And the issue of data, they should be able to have a structured data system that actually allows them to know those people, because sometimes you find out that you have registered your SIM card only for you to get deactivated at some point. So some try to register online. They provided a portal for them, but they could not actually get through the process. So it is also a bit issue that has to do with technology and how we able to navigate that complex challenges, especially those people that operate in the telecom space.
Let's talk about our database. Do you think we do not have an appropriate database when it comes to compilation of names, information for Nigerians, basically?
Yeah, transitioning from a paper-based system to this digital system, we find out that there's still a lot of technology gap. okay, in as much as some of these telecom companies are trying to meet up with expectations, but then it is quite unfortunate that just like you said, we are yet to get to that level where we can say we have an organized database system that allows easy retracing of information as at the time you need it. But if you don't have that organized structure, you will be able to find those kind of challenges.
All right.
A whole lot when you look at the Daily Trust, because very much disheartening is on the page 21, where house serving naval officer killed man and stole his jeep. I mean, yesterday they apprehended him. And then this is what we've been saying over time, that the moment where we don't address this challenge, the moment where we fight, where things work, where people can really understand that hardship is real, and a whole lot of people are venturing into things that, ultimately everybody will be caught in a way. Because when you look at a naval officer escorting one of the son of a former army, one of the naval chief, killed the son and took away the jeep. As common, as disheartening as this kind of situation. And so it therefore means that we are heading towards where we don't even know, where people that are meant to protect you, people that are meant to be with you, are now, hurting you and harming you on the way. So these are the issues. When you look at the fact that, are they well paid? These are the issues. If a naval officer is doing this, how much more a normal Nigerian who is not even working, who doesn't even know where the next meal comes from, and then we are still fighting how we can correct the issues of abnormality in the community. Give us an understanding about what better should government start doing, because it's getting out of hands. People can't sleep in their houses anymore. Kidnapping is high, and look at this high rate of crime rate. If he wasn't apprehended, who knows what would have happened at the end of the day.
And putting at the back of our minds that these are personnel that are supposed to protect lives and property, and going behind and doing this gruesome act. Let's just talk about it a bit.
It's quite worrisome, to see such acts coming from people, just like you said, that are meant to protect lives and properties of the citizens, all right, being at the forefront of committing this kind of crime. And someone will say it's because of hunger or because he's not well paid. I think this thing has to do with issue that has to do with moral degradation of our society, and issue that has to do with corruption also in the security sector. Needs to be taken very serious. Recently, we see some the new appointments of the NIA and that of Department of State Services. All these steps the government is trying to take is to ensure that there is a complete overhaul of the security architecture in the country. Because if you have a country where those people who are the hem of affairs, especially those who the lives and properties of people are transferred into their hands, have actually lost, some form of, moral, moral, let me just say the proliferation of moral decadence, especially within the security space, because these people are meant to operate with a certain code, which also, have gone through a lot of trainings that has to do with empathy and how you deal with people and how you have to show, build that peace and, social cohesion. Then at the end of the day, if you find them doing the other way around, you find out that there is actually something wrong with the system. So the management of the security operatives in Nigeria or security agencies in Nigeria, they need to speed up. Through the government responses, there should be a very kind of a holistic approach. Government should be able to issue out an ultimatum. It should be able to direct the Director General of all these agencies so that they can have a blueprint. And this blueprint must be built around sustaining a system that can be emulated by generation to come, not just a system that is wrought by a lot of wrongs, a lot of wrongdoings of people, wrought by greed and selfishness. Because if, as a Navy officer, you are able to commit that kind of crime, so what do you expect another citizens to do?
Exactly.
A lot to be worried about. And let's now get to the Guardian newspaper this morning. The big story we have the Guardian: NIN SIM linkage and national security. Fresh anxiety as federal government disconnects 50 million unlinked SIMs on September 14. You can find the big faces right there, the president, the ministers involved, and the IG. We also have concerns as Abuja photographer spends 10 months in detention over intentional insult. That's on page 8 of the Guardian paper. PDP crisis, Bode George advises Atiku to contest presidency in 2031 at age at 85. I mean, page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We're going to come back to that, issues of presidency, rotations, power rotations, and all of that. Criminal Justice Act ineffective 7 years after NBA lament. Kaduna, Bauchi, other residents vacate flood-prone areas. You can find this story on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. Rep members warns Lagos LP against illegal Congress and others. These you can find on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have currency in circulation hits 4 trillion naira, defies CBN's monetary tightening measures. NLC threatens indefinite strike as Ajero honors police invitation. Afenifera 6 regional NYSC enforcement of terrorism prohibition act. That is on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. A whole lot of story, very interesting right here at the Guardian. Let's begin with issues of NLC threatening indefinite strike. From what I've read, they have started calling on all their state offices to start a procession to the state commands we have in their respective state. Do you feel that that is an intimidation on their part? Because from what the police are saying, we are just inviting you to answer some questions. And now in the other way around, he's saying, as an NLC president, probably he feels he shouldn't be subjecting to such invitation and questioning and all of that. So, and now you're mobilizing people to go on the strike just because you've been invited. This time, not issue of minimum wage. This time, not issues of what affect workers. It's about personal interest right now. Why should people go? I mean, why should workers go on the strike again this time?
I think enough of these issues of threatening the system with strike, whether it is from ASU or from NLC or any form of organized circulations of that actually, because it's time for us to actually build a country. As NLC leader, you should know the implication of even threatening to go on a strike, let alone of undertaking that action. So if you are invited by the police for questioning, I don't think that's enough reason why you should be threatening for a strike, because every citizens of Nigeria are subjected to rule of law. So provided the fact that the Nigerian police are acting within the the limits of law, it is incumbent on you to respond to their inquiries and provide informations to the best of your knowledge, or whatever investigation they want to conduct, to also make their work very easy for them. So, but for you trying to, incite the Nigerian people, to go on a strike simply because you're invited, I don't think it's the best way to go, because it doesn't actually demonstrate a good quality of a good leader.
And then for me, it's still talking about the NLC, the strike. Now let's look at this very critically. Now, do you think there's sort of self-entitlement when it comes to issues like this? It has nothing to do with national issues. It has nothing to do with minimum wage, just like Michael said. But it is your own personal issue that has to do with the invitation by the police. So do you think it has portrayed that self-worth of the NLC, looking at it critically?
Yeah, sure, because it's definitely portrayed them in a bad light, because just like I said, everyone is subjected to the rule of law, and beyond your own personal interests. Of course, NLC is not your personal property.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's a public service whereby
it's a union.
It's a union that you are meant to serve, within the ambience of the law. So, if you are now creating that kind of impression that whatever that affects you personally, it can be, they can be used as an advantage to, create a situation like going on strike and all of that, I think is actually did not cast them in a good light, and it is something that the leaders of the Congress need to sit down again and see how they can readjust so that it will not actually continue to create further damages.
All right. There's another big story here on page 7, and it says here, PDP crisis, Bode George advises Atiku to contest presidency in 2031 at 85. Is that a good advice, really? Let's look at. There was a chuckle from my colleague. He chuckled when he read that story. So let's look at that advice. Is it a good advice, or do you think it's a chance to portray never give up, keep trying till you get it right?
After all, we had one who tried over and over
exactly, and he became the president. But this particular advice, at age 85 in 2031, that kind of advice, how do you weigh it?
Well, politics, they said, is just always a game of interest. It is his right to actually offer maybe the principal or that kind of encouragement or support for him to run. But when we want to look at it holistically, based on the state of affairs, the kind of Nigeria we want to build, it is time for people to speak from angle of nation building, not angle of a political interest.
Exactly.
Or because you are affiliated to a particular person or affiliated to a particular individual, or you're inclined to a particular political party. That makes your understanding of politics like you do or die affair. Because if at that age that's the Mr. Atiku is not strong enough, because if
85
age is already telling on him, so why would someone encourage him to go for presidency? Simply because politics, the way we understand it in Nigeria, is like once you have that ambition, it's something that you must get at all costs.
I also feel this is trying to avert him from contesting for 2027, because when you look at our brother George, it's from the southwest, so people, he might be coming from the grounds that allowed Tinubu to complete the 8 years.
Yes.
We had a northern president who completed 8 years, so
True.
you should ultimately allow President Tinubu, who is from the south, to complete his 10 years before you from the north can now return back. So it might come from that angle. So some people may say, oh, this is also the fact that you're citing, because President Tinubu is from your own region. Why are you giving such an
advice,
motivated advice? So one way or the other. But that is still issues of political parties. PDP will decide their fate moving forward on how they're gonna get back to Aso Rock. But let's now get to the issues of Labour Party. Reps members have won Lagos LP against illegal Congress and others. There's a crisis, fresh crisis rocking in Labour Party. Even right now, we don't even know the status of the leadership of the party, because some people said, the chairman, your tenure was up, so why are you still holding office? We've seen NLC leading protests to the headquarters itself, vacate office so that we can now conduct election for new offices. All of these are concerned. And when you look at the 2023 election, you understand that Labour Party was the talk of the town, where people had really, really, really believed in the party. But from what we are seeing now, do they look different from every other political party? Because some of the issues we are facing in Labour Party today, or we are hearing from Labour Party, are the issues we encountered. We've encountered with several times with other political parties.
Because what it can only do is to endanger their chances. Because just like you mentioned, during 2023 election, they actually drawn that attention to that party because of the kind of leadership structure they had. They were able to organize themselves and be able to coordinate in a way that actually makes them to, I think, come third place in the presidential race. Of course, it's actually a milestone for them, looking at where they are coming from. But at this point, if they allow such a leadership crisis or a leadership tussle going on within the party, I think it can only destabilize their chances. So, yeah, of course, we know politics is always, winners take it all. But then, as a political party that is actually emerging, and not actually emerging because they have been there, but actually trying to, revive and, come on board again as one of the top 3 political parties in Nigeria, they should be able to look at their the leadership structure and how they can actually solve every challenges within the party without necessarily creating chances of destabilizing the structure they're already building.
So this may also be linked that this is after Peter Obi, because you understand that it's one of the forces behind the emergence of Labour Party as far as the last election in terms of their stand and how they were able to be out. So do you feel, because it looks also the fact that some people said that government or some people are sponsoring, some agents in the political party to be distorting some of these issues, and so as to, disorganize the party and frustrate every attempt by Mr. Peter Obi?
Yeah, every party has an opposition, okay, but
internally.
Internally, yeah, opposition are like external opposition, which may be linked to what you said. Maybe try to use some external, strategy or tactics to destabilize the internal coordination of the party. But the truth of the matter is that regardless of whatever external force that you think that may be acting on you, as a political system or as a political party, it is incumbent on the leaders to actually look there and know where the problem is actually coming from and see how they can resolve it without necessarily allowing it to escalate out of control. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have there's this story on page 27 that says Afenifere seeks regional NYSC enforcement of Terrorism Prohibition Act. What's your take on this Terrorism Prohibition Act? Really, let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, because the Terrorism Prohibition Act is, it is like all-encompassing act that actually look into issue that has to do with both terrorism financing and all issue of sponsoring terrorism. So, if that act has come into play, I think it is something that also needs to be reinforced. Because looking at the security challenges that we are facing in Nigeria today, it is time for government to also look at how they can begin to, create measures that allows for a fiscal implementation of that act. Because we begin to see that, inside that act, there's a lot of clauses that if they should give more attention to it, you can begin to find out that some of the challenges we are having around the security system and security architecture in the country will be resolved. Because if there are some people who are actually, doing the other way around, trying to undermine the security of the country, within that act, you see, if they're able to implement it very well, all these loopholes can be filled within a short period of time.
All right, now next is the New Telegraph, right, Michael? And above that caption, it says 124 federal government earnings from non-oil experts hits $2.7 billion. And it says fuel crisis, landing cost of diesel rises to 1,136.97 per litre. And below the caption of the New Telegraph, it says digital security, NCC insists on September 14th deadline for NIN SIM linkage. And below that caption, we have federal government recovers 83.01 billion naira via whistleblowers. Nigerians spent 87.35 billion naira on foreign education, PTA, in 10 years, and that's the report. Now, looking at this, let us talk a bit about, we've already talked about the NCC insists on September 14 deadline for NIN. Just look at that. Do you think it's visible? Let's just talk about it briefly. I know we've spoken about it before, but do you think it's visible? Because we have been going back and forth with this issue. Do you think that September 4th, that deadline is visible for all Nigerians to have the accurate data and registered?
Yeah, I don't think it is visible because if you look at the number of people that are yet to secure their NIN and the protocols and the process they have to go, it's because...
And even the manpower
Yes, exactly.
for them to be able to activate all of this.
So it's actually not something that can be achieved within that timeline. So it's better they actually have to extend the timeline and give people, create more awareness and make sure that they have all the necessary manpower, just like you said, in place, so that whenever they are given a timeline, they know that also have their own resources to make sure that they were able to meet up with this time.
It might also be a way of trying to force people, to start, they put the pressure on the anxiety on all of them so that they can, get it activated. But there's a story right here. Federal government recovers 83.01 billion naira via whistleblowers. We were just talking about it before we went into the paper reviews. Issues of whistleblowing. A lot of people are afraid to speak just because they are not assured of protection and their security to speak and all of that. Do you feel that this probably may address or avert the issues of corruptions we have in the country?
Yes, they need to create a law that actually protects. The National Assembly should begin to look at that direction, because on the long term, if you want to actually solve these issues of insecurity in Nigeria, you should actually look at that direction, the role of these whistleblowers, because it's like everyone has to be on board. Because if you have an incentive for people who are actually speaking up against corruption or against crimes in every community, because they know they can be compensated and all of that, I think we should always encourage that exposure to all this different kind of criminality. So otherwise, if you are not able to create a law or a kind of immunity thing that actually provide immunity for them, people will not have that courage to speak up, because they will feel that their life or their career will be at risk if the thing actually go the other way around. So I think if government actually wants to take that as an approach, to also increase the security awareness in the country, there should be a mechanism whereby the privacy and the status, as a matter of fact, a mechanism that provides an overall immunity for whistleblowers. and they can also be duly compensated.
All right. The next paper is The Punch, and Michael will be running us through that paper.
All right, the big story right out the Punch. Government plans evacuation comes as flood hits 28 states. Right out to the story, it says flooding affects 133 local governments of 526 and 703 persons. Tinubu promises aid. We still have a bankers committee complete the restoration of National Theatre, well displayed right there on the paper. NLC plans mass procession as Nigeria honors police invitation today. I can find this story on page 12. Atiku, but the judge disagree over 2027 presidential ambition. That's on page 29. But let's just visit these issues of flood. I mean, it's really, really disheartening right now. A lot of houses have been consumed, a lot of properties, lives, and all of that. People are displaced. This probably may also create a concern. What is NEMA doing? Did they not signal some of the people in these communities ahead of time? I mean, to just be able to be alert of such a situation. Do we have a projection capacity to always address some of these issues? Because that's always the problem. We're always running when the issues are on, when we are already consuming it. We are not in any way trying to see how we can address the issue before time. Issues of flooding sometimes natural, we understand natural disaster are also concerned, but there are also human factor. What we can do to, avert some of these issues. What do you think, managing mechanism has been in terms of flooding in the country?
Yeah, the issue of inadequate preparedness. These are some of the things, some of the challenges you need to deal with around, governance deficiency. Because if the agencies that are entrusted, with appropriate coordination and implementation of, various programs or initiatives that actually, create awareness or, through research and scientific method, they have the right technology to be able to forecast and know that this thing is coming on. As a matter of fact, this is not the first time. So if this thing has become like a subsequent issues, like, is a subsequent occurrence of this flooding, displacing communities and individuals, on the part of government agencies that are being mandated to carry out those functions and responsibilities, there should be some level of proactiveness, there should be some level of preparedness, okay, because these institutions are run with taxpayers' money, because if you are running these organizations with taxpayers' money and you're not able to protect their life, you're not able to protect their properties, only for them to be taken on our way because they are helpless, I don't think it is a symbol of a good leadership. So if the government of the day knows the implications or the amount of damages that these things are actually causing year in, year out, they should be able to pay more attention, to be more proactive about mitigating the challenges of this flooding.
All right, we also have the issues of strike. Federal government has to reach a compromise to reconvene September 6. There have been also lingering issues of strike by ASU. Again and again, educational sector is also put in danger. Red alert in terms of trying to, take students out of school, classrooms, back to the street, back to their homes. So we are concerned right this time. But why is it all of the issues? They understand about their 2012 demand have not been met. These are the issues they've been having negotiation with federal government. But we can't see how we can address these issues completely, because this is a problem. We are having many issues to deal with in the country, issues of strike by ASU, and also workers' demand and all of those things. Do you feel that it's enough time that federal government properly put to rest any attempt of strike by ASU, because this is affecting our educational sector very greatly? Yeah,
this also reminds us to begin to look at how much value we attach to education in Nigeria, even at 21st century, where we all believe that education is the future, and according to Nelson Mandela, that education is the only weapon to change the world. And if at this time that we are still struggling with ASU going to strike and the students wandering on the streets without direction for a couple of months or even years, as the case may be, it still shows you that we have a long way to go as a nation. And if the government do not pay more attention on how they can provide a sustainable arrangement with ASU in a way that allows the education sector to flourish, I think we continue to have issues bordering on the underdevelopment, low human capacity development, and all sort of crimes we can think of in Nigeria. Because education, if we do not take it very serious, it only comes back to hurt the nation, because the youths, the young people are the future, and if they do not have a solid platform built on solid educational foundation, they will not have a future of purpose. So we have lived in a century whereby advanced nations are more launching more educational initiatives that actually taking their citizens to the future of works. But now we are still grappling with whether ASU. So talking about ASU negotiations with federal government, I think this is not the first time that ASU claim that their demands have not been met. So I think we cannot continue romancing the problem. It is either the government just want to exercise the political will to address these issues once and for all. I don't see why we have people who are, professors, who are experts, who are, who claims to be, political leaders cannot, look at problems around the educational sector and see how they can, create, a blueprint. So it's quite worrisome. And if you watch in recent times, we have some initiatives from the federal government around the student loan. Yes, this is an educational intervention that helps, some indigent students to have access to financial opportunities to go to school. But on the long term, on the long term, I think the government should be more concerned on how to build a thriving educational sector that is void of these issues of going back and forth to strike up and down.
All right, we still have a couple of papers and headlines to touch, but let's quickly just go on a break. And once we return from the break, we'll complete the papers we have for you this morning. Do stay with us.
busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
We are bringing you to speed what we have on the headlines this morning. Many thanks for still stay with us on the program. We, of course, now take a look at the Nation newspaper. What we have on the Nation newspaper still has Ajero NLC direct members to converge and police commands. You can find these on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Foreign investors pumped 800 billion naira into breweries subsector on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Atiku should wait till 2031 to run, says Body Judge. Why Haji commissions must be reformed by presidency, page 2. We still have a police officer, 19 others held for terrorism. How ASP, other suspects abet Boko Haram bandit. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. A couple of other bankers committee complete the restoration of National Theatre. Of course, issues of insecurity has still been brought to attention right here on the Nation, where we'll continue to look at. Now that we have a new NIA DG, new DSS, and all of that, is that a way forward? Would these also combat? Would they be able to combat the issues of security? I understand that forces sometimes are external. We also have the internal factors as well. And some person are saying the new NIA, I mean, is not a career security expert where, unlike the DSS, where he has been, a director and all of those things. Do you feel that we need that foreign experience from him to also contribute, because he has some African countries where he has served and has worked before in terms of security experience?
Yeah, sure. I think that nomination or that appointment is it comes at a very critical time that Nigeria is in urgent need of security, because if you watch what has been going on in the country in recent times, you find out that most of the issues around socio-economic development is being hampered by security, ongoing security challenges. So all the entire security agencies that are supposed to coordinate and halt this menace of terrorism, kidnapping, banditry of all sorts, and all the other kind of other forms of organized crime, then you find out there are some gaps that needs to be filled, either within the management system of these security organizations. So if new leaders are coming, the new leaders are coming on board from based on the appointment that was made by Mr. President, I think the one whom much is given, much is expected. I can say, because the DSS are more involved in charge of the intelligence gathering and issues that are around domestic internal security. So if you watch the trend and patterns of insecurity, it actually need more of intelligence gathering, because it's not like I think that you just go, is a guerrilla warfare that these people are fighting. So you need that intelligence gathering in order to know how this, map out how these crimes are being mapped out, to be able to know how you can deploy your intelligence properly to be able to curtail it. So I think the new DG of DSS and also the new DG appointed of NIA, the issue be able to work in coordination and see how they can begin to create sustainable solutions around the country.
There's this particular story that caught my eye. It says, Bankers Committee completes restoration of National Theatre. Do you think it's a way of this banking sector giving back to the society?
Sure, it's quite encouraging, because our banking system continuously needs reforms, and it is through such projects they can begin to nurture the young bankers through such initiative, so that them too can also learn the ethics of banking in a professional way and see how they can also contribute to giving back to the society. And
do you think it's for other sectors to also learn from this and also give back to society?
Yes, because nation building is a collective effort.
Yes, it is.
So if all the organizations or the agencies are able to come up with such initiative at their own level, to be able to create opportunities, to be able to create, knowledge learning centers where people can also, learn new information and also equip themselves with latest technology. That way, you can also begin to enhance the human capital development in the country. So I think it's something that is highly encouraged.
All right, one more question before we go to our last paper on the newspaper review. It says, police officer, 19 others held for terrorism. And Michael made a statement. He says, what is the cause of all of this? Is it that they are not well paid, or we see the economic situation of Nigeria? What is going on when these officers have a steady income? When it might not be up to what they receive, but at least at the end of the month, they have a take-home pay.
Because, I had a guest who said, you are giving a policeman every gun to carry out, so you're not after how he's faring, if he has eaten and all of those things. So there's a compromise. There's always a compromise one way or the other.
So let us, what really is the problem? Is it that some of these individuals, when it comes to security agents, they're not well taken care of? We just see their lavish uniforms, like you say, with the guns, but deep down they're going through a lot, just like other Nigerians. So what do you think will be the cause of security agents going into criminal acts such as these?
It takes a very dangerous situation we have, because
Yes,
what you have as an implication, you have a collapse of national security. The moment you see people who lives and properties are entrusted into their care, and not the one going out carrying these kind of crimes. All right, so it still borders on the issues around how much structures and how much discipline the system is.
Exactly.
Because if subsequently you have an agencies that are wrought with corruption and malpractices, and the justice system is also almost non-functional. And just like you mentioned, the welfare system also is almost non-existent. So all these things put together, so we are not just dealing with issue of welfare system here, because if you are able to provide welfare system without a proper measure that actually check corruption, people can, as long as human being is concerned, people can always be greedy and they can always want for more. So corruption, they said, is endemic. If the government really wants to tackle the issues around policing the nation in a very much holistic approach, there should be a very unified method approach that to deal with corruption within that sector, and strong penalty measures should be stated, and a follow-up plan of action towards implementation of such policies to also be in place. Because if people are caught, police officers are well paid and are provided with enough welfare services, and you find them engaging in any corrupt practices and you're not able to prosecute them according to the law, I mean, such system will not easily be get rid of such corruption.
All right, now next is the Vanguard newspaper, and that will be our last paper on the newspaper review today. And above the caption it says, energy crisis, marketers seek diesel price reduction to 700 naira per litre. And here it says NCC gives September 14th final deadline for NIN SIM linkage compliance. And on security now, it says bandits, kidnappers, others should be exterminated. And that's in the voice of Tinubu. You can find that on page 19. It says alleged terrorism financing. NLC president honors police invitation today, and that we can find on page 5. Now, below the caption of the Vanguard, it says WAEC NAS wades into age controversy. And we have 6 riders there, and it says it's accessible. That's article. And here it says federal government acting like military regime, federal government declaration unacceptable. And here it says we haven't been bench on the matter. And below all of that, we have here Nigeria. Individuals arrest over 300 members of Black Axe, group. And of course, that's in university. Fertility of Tinubu's Static and Economic Council. Now, we're looking at the Vanguard now, and we're still talking about this age controversy that has to do with if you're not up to 18 years, you cannot write WAEC exam. And I keep asking the same question again, that there are children out there who are very intelligent. You cannot take that away from them, and they are 15. So they have to wait 3 whole years before they attempt to write WAEC and NECO. Are we looking at the psychological effect of these kids? Because there are some kids.
Are we even going forward, or we are going back?
Are we going forward when it comes to the educational sector? What this reform that is what? Let's look at our educational sector. Is it going to impact?
In some part of this country, people are getting married at age 13, 14,
yes,
15.
Very true.
I mean, so why would you restrict people from education, and then you are also encouraging people getting married at that very tender age?
Exactly.
I mean, in some part of this country.
Of course, very true. So let's look at it. So is it actually impacting our educational sector, or what is happening? What's your own take when it comes to it? I asked someone on our program, and he says for him, this is not sustainable because a lot of people will repel against this. Parents will. There was a kicker that says, the rider that says, ASU says, why are you in a rush? Parents says, we are going to court. And then, of course, the federal government says it's still in the process. So we do not know where this actually stands. Do you think this is visible when it comes to the educational sector?
Okay, now you have to look at this from the angle of early stroke late child development in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because if you observe in some countries, like in Europe or US, you have children developed more faster at the early age. Before a child gets to 18, 20 years, probably must have. Yes, before a child gets to up to 18, 20 years, even before the child hits 25, it's like he's already a founder of a company, he's already doing well even at 18 years.
Okay.
He's already, have a sense of business and all of that. But here, we still have children who even, shortly before they enter the university itself, they are yet to know what it means to, build a career or what direction their future is. So I think it's a psychological thing. So if we begin to look at it at that angle, yeah.
All right, Farouk, we're going to come back to that very quickly. But let's just go on a break just for the news. And once you're done from the news, we'll continue the discussion. Do stay with us.
Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air 9ComSat. Now the news in full. The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities have scheduled a follow-up meeting for September 6, 2024. Minister of Education Professor Tahir Mamon made this known at the end of a meeting with the union leadership at the Federal Ministry of Education. Following resolutions reached at the union's National Executive Council meeting held at the University of Ibadan on August 19, 2024, public university lecturers threatened to go on a nationwide strike over the federal government's failure to honor the 2009 renegotiated agreement. The union's demand include improvements in welfare and university funding and halting the proliferation of universities nationwide. Minister of Finance Wale Adun says President Bola Tinubu will soon send a bill seeking to protect whistleblowers to the National Assembly for its consideration and passage. Speaking at an event in Abuja, Edun said citizens who want to do the right thing by exposing corruption should be protected. A whistleblower policy was introduced by the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016, but attempts to enact a legislative framework have failed repeatedly. The coordinating minister of the economy said Nigerians should support the federal government in putting in place policy that would engender transparency. Over now to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC says the distribution of permanent voter cards, PVCs, to new applicants across Edo State local government area has commenced. The Commission's National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumeko, in a statement said the distribution at the ward level have been concluded with 125,928 PVCs collected within 5 days. INEC, while urging the applicants to come for their cards, noted that it would not release them to third parties. The Director General of the Bauchi State Emergency Management Agency, Suad Aliyu, has urged residents living in flooding zones area to vacate their homes due to heightened flood threats. He made this statement in an exclusive interview. Aliyu said those residing in flood-prone areas and regions with a history of flooding should take the precautionary of vacating their homes. The Executive Secretary of Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Usman Hayatu Muzadu, says over 200 houses in Zaria and Sabangari local government area have been destroyed by recent floods in the state. Despite flood predictions and warnings, some residents refused to relocate, resulting in significant damage. Dr. Hayatu said while addressing newsmen in the state, he noted that the state government had taken measures to mitigate the impact of the flood, including deslating drainage systems and conducting sensitization campaigns. Kebbi State Governor Nasri Idris has promised to reconstruct the washed-away bridge and roads in the Suru and Mayama local government area of the state. The governor made the pledge while inspecting the washed-away bridge along the Suru-Kwara Dingiri Road and some rice farms destroyed by the flood in Suru local government. He reiterated the readiness for his administration to extend hands of fellowship to all members of people across the state. The Nigerian Immigration Service has deported the Zimbabwean Bishop Eben Ihewatawi for participating in the Methodist Church leadership election process while on a tourist visa. In a statement issued by its public relations officer Kenneth Udo, the service described the bishop's action as a clear violation of the terms and privileges associated with a tourist visa, as outlined in Nigeria Visa Policy 2024. Kogi State Governor Ahmed Ododo has approved the appointment of 12 new permanent secretaries in the state's public service representing their respective constituencies to fill the viable vacancies. This was contained in a statement issued by the head of service, Elijah Evinamem. The governor stressed that the permanent secretaries were carefully selected based on merit, fairness, and justice. 2 people have reportedly been killed and another person injured after a plane tire exploded at the Atlanta airport in the United States. The tire of the plane had reportedly exploded as it was being removed at the Delta Airlines operations facility at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The airport, which is located in the southeastern parts of U.S. state of Georgia, is renowned as the busiest in the world. A Nigerian Navy personnel, Abdul Rashid Mohammed, have been arrested for the murder of Aminu, the son of former Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ishaya Ibrahim, retired. Speaking while parading the suspect in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory Commissioner of Police, Bennett Igwe, said Mohammed killed Aminu and stole his car 2 weeks ago. Igwe noted that about 2 weeks ago, Aminu Ibrahim, the son of Vice Admiral Ibrahim, retired, a former chief of naval staff, was robbed and killed in the Maitama area of Abuja, and his Prado SUV was taken. However, Abdul Rashid Mohammed has confessed to the crime and his car had been recovered. The current Mpox outbreak in Nigeria has spread to 30 local government areas in 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory, with 40 confirmed cases so far. A report from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has also shown that there are so far a total of 802 suspected cases in 33 states of the Federation. This situation report was released a few days before the United States government donated 10,000 doses of Mpox vaccines to Nigeria. You're watching AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When AM News returns, Kano government orders closure of accounts of ministers' agencies. Details of these and more right after this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Television, bringing you live broadcasts of AM News. Thank you for staying with us. Over now to Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf has directed the Accountant General of the state to close all ministry, department and agency accounts with immediate effect. The governor gave the directive at a meeting with the chairman of the Kano State Internal Revenue Service, heads of ministries, departments and agencies at the Government House. According to him, the decision was adopted to ensure that all government revenue is properly accounted for and utilized for the development of the state. In business, the federal and state governments have raised 100 billion naira for the procurement of prepaid electricity meters. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu said this was under the Presidential Meter Initiative program. Adelabu described this while addressing broadcasters in Ibadan, Oyo State capital, where they stated that President Bola Tinubu's administration have been making efforts to close the meter gap in Nigeria, adopting various initiatives. The federal government has initiated plans to enlist the services of an external auditor to verify the 2.7 trillion naira fuel subsidy claim by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited against the government. The yet-to-be-named auditor will assist the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation in determining the real amount owed by the government. This development comes 5 months after the plan was proposed at the monthly Federation Allocation Accounts Committee meeting in April 2024. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Privatization and Commercialization, Hamisu Ibrahim, has pledged the committee's resolve to work with relevant committees in the House to pass legislation on electricity theft in the country. Speaking when he had left other members of the committee on an oversight visit to the Eco Electricity Distribution Company in Lagos, Ibrahim decried the rate of electricity theft in the country, saying the legislation would check the abuse. In a statement by the head of Public Communications Bureau of Public Enterprise, Aminu Othman, the chairman called for collaboration between committee and electricity power companies for effective and efficient power supply in the country. Nigerians' daily oil production shrank by 160,000 barrels per day in the second quarter of 2024. This was contained in a report released by the National Bureau of Statistics, stating that in 3 months, the country had recorded an average daily production of 1.41 million barrels per day. This figure is lower than the first quarter production volume of 1.57 million barrels per day. On our foreign news, the founder and chief of Telegram, Pavel Durov, is set to learn whether he will face charges and even be remanded in custody after his weekend arrest by French authorities over the alleged violation at the messaging app. Durov was arrested at Le Bourgogne airport outside Paris, where the judicial authorities have repeatedly extended his initial period of detention, which can last a maximum of 96 hours. As part of a probe that was confidentially opened on July 8th, Durov is reportedly being investigated on suspicion of 12 offenses related to failing to curb extremist content on Telegram. Overnight, the United States Pentagon says an oil tanker that was attacked by Yemen's Houthi rebels in the Red Sea last week is still on fire and may be leaking oil. The Pentagon also said attempts to salvage the Greek-owned and flagged MV Solim have been thwarted by the Houthis, who have threatened more attacks. The ship is carrying more than 150,000 tons of 1 million barrels of crude oil, and a major spill has the potential to be among the largest from a ship in recorded history. The Iran-backed Houthis, who controlled much of Yemen, said they have been attacking ships in the Red Sea for 10 months in support of the Palestinians in the war between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Kenya on Tuesday unveiled the candidature of its former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for chairperson of the African Union Commission at the colorful ceremony graced by several East African community heads of state.
One is to work with you, Your Excellencies, and make the AU more people-centered and serve the interests of the vast voiceless majority of Africans. I dream of an Africa where those borders and colonial languages no longer divide us. We don't want to see Africans to be divided as Anglophones, Francophones, Lusophones. I want them to be Africaphones.
Odinga presented its African leaders as overriding objective to running to become the continent's commission chairman. President Ruto said Odinga enjoys a positive reputation as a zealous Pan-African who has constantly demonstrated strong faith in Africans' possibilities. U.S. prosecutors have issued reverse charges against former President Donald Trump for his alleged attempt to interfere in the 2020 election after he lost to Joe Biden. They are in response to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling last month that said presidents enjoy broad immunity from criminal prosecutions for official acts while in office. The reverse indictment laid out the same 4 criminal counts against Trump, which he denies, but they now relate to his status as a political candidate rather than a sitting president. It appears unlikely that the case and other criminal cases faced by the Republican will reach court before this year's election on 5th November. Over now to our sports news. As the excitement builds for the 2024-25 UEFA Champions League, Europe's elite clubs are gearing up for another thrilling season of the high-stakes football. With the group stage draw set to take place in Monaco, the final list of qualified teams have been revealed, featuring powerhouses from across the continent alongside some surprising newcomers. Alongside the UCL's historic 36-team league phase, the UEFA Europe League and UEFA Conference League draw will also take place shortly after. Cristiano Ronaldo, a name synonymous to excellence in European football, is set to receive a prestigious honor from UEFA, solidifying his status as a UEFA Champions League all-time top scorer. The special award will be presented by UEFA President Alexander Comfrini during the 2024-25 UEFA Champions League draw ceremony on 29 August at the Grimaldi Forum in Monaco. According to a statement by the UEFA website, Ronaldo's unparalleled achievements in the UEFA Champions League, including his 140 goals across 183 appearances, have redefined the competition's history. Still on, Cristiano Ronaldo has revealed that his plans to retire from football within the next 2 or 3 years, though he has not finalized when to bring his illustrious career to a close. The 39-year-old, who turned 40 on February 5, 2025, continues to excel with Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia and remains active on the international stage. In a recent interview, Ronaldo revealed that his retirement from international football will be a spontaneous decision catching everyone by surprise. Captain William Ekong, wing-back Olaoluwa Aina, and forward Victor Siem and Taiwo Owoniyi are back in the Super Eagles' nest for next month's 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifying matches against Benin Republic and Rwanda. This year's AFCON man of the competition, Ekong, was discontinued by the match days 3 and 4 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying race in June as he was recovering from injury, while Aina Owoniyi and reigning African Player of the Year Victor Siem were out injured altogether. There are 3 goalkeepers, including AFCON 2023 star Stanley Owobali, 7 defenders, 6 midfielders, and 7 forwards. South African football was in mourning following the death of Uruguayan defender João Enzo Dardo, who collapsed on the pitch from an irregular heartbeat during a Copa Libertadores game last week. The cause of death was not known, arrest linked to cardiac, according to his club, based on the doctor's report. Now to end the AM News, here's a summary of some of our big stories. President Tinubu will send bill to National Assembly seeking protection of whistleblowers. Mpox has spread to 19 states with cases rise to 40. In business, Kano state government has ordered closure of accounts of ministers, agencies, and on our foreign scene, United Kingdom and Germany have signed a new treaty. Finally, in sports, we told you Ekong CM Aino, 21 others will be battling Benin, Rwanda in 2025 AFCON qualifier. And that's it on AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Remember, we are on DSTV channel 365, Star Times channel 276, and free to air. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Good morning.
But by your name, you say global. So global is a big coverage. So you are taking a big name, but you are starting from from the scratch. So that big name, by the grace of Almighty Allah, you achieve that. You will appreciate your activities, your reportage, and everything you are doing. Do it with the fear of Almighty God. Step by step, you'll be growing very, very globally. Get your things right and then report rightly. And then inshallah, sky will be your limit.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. Can we not say that again? Because
that this country gets it right?
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Get a shot in, squares it, it's in the back.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Got that goal! Beautiful work from the wingers!
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning Team.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumaine Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and it repeats every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
But by your name, you say global. So global is a big coverage. So you are taking a big name, but you are starting from from scratch. So that big name, by the grace of Almighty Allah, you achieve that. You will appreciate your activities, your reportage, and everything you are doing. Do it with the fear of Almighty God. Step by step, you'll be growing very, very globally. Get your things right and then report rightly. And then inshallah, sky will be your limit.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
Who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Get a shot in, squares it, into the back.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momadou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Beautiful work from the wingers.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momadou.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumaine Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television, getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumain Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
But by your name, you say global. So global is a big coverage. So you are taking a big name, but you are starting from from the scratch. So that big name, by the grace of Almighty Allah, you achieve that. You will appreciate your activities, your reportage, and everything you are doing. Do it with the fear of Almighty God. Step by step, you'll be growing very, very globally. Get your things right and then report rightly. And then inshallah, sky will be your limit.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
Who are these bandits? It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
On the state of the economy, there are concerned by expert advice for the government and the federal government to make policy to encourage foreign direct investment in the country. The recent of the headlines we've had that over 800 billion naira have been invested in the breweries and the subsector. What happens to all the sectors? When the moment where some policies of government, I know we're creating an environment conducive enough for businesses to thrive. Look at the small scale, small medium, of course, looking at also the fact that entrepreneurs are finding it very difficult to thrive in midst of the inflations and some of the economic policies by this government. So we'll look at all of these issues and seeing what government needs to do, urgently do. We are asking many graduates, we are having a turnout of graduates every year from universities and school. What rooms are we creating so as to absorb these ones, so as to avert issues of crimes in the society and create a safe environment for all of us? Of course, I still have Jumai and of course Farouk. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for still being on the program. Let's now brainstorm on these issues of creating an enabling environment, because that is the key issue right there. a situation looks that we're having more people in politics, or where we see more rich politicians, but entrepreneurs are finding it very difficult to strive. That means you are getting it wrong.
Okay, I think just like you mentioned, first of all, we should look at this from the angle of creating an enabling environment by the government, because business can never thrive if government do not put out the infrastructure or the facilities that allows small-scale businesses to grow. And an environment like Nigeria, where you also have issues around power failure, insufficient or technology gap, or issues around insecurity, all these issues actually also discouraging investors. All right, so the government should prioritize, because if you look at our microeconomy, it contributes almost 60% of our GDP. So if eventually government are also looking at that angle and see how they can create opportunities for small-scale businesses, small and medium enterprises, and then so that way we can also begin to see more jobs created in different sectors of the economy, and also enhance that economic growth.
Because you're very much particular about the fact that when you look at the statistics where businesses that are folding up in the country, it's worrisome. When the moment we should be appreciating people coming into the country to invest, what can you see about President Tinubu's policy of foreign direct investment, owing to the fact that we need them to come in to invest? The president is traveling very soon to other countries. What has been the impact of his travels? So many Nigerians are even bothered about he's traveling. What is the result of all of these travels? What can we see in the economy? Is this reflective of the economy?
Yeah, I think such travels actually amount of bilateral negotiation that is going on. And I think it is quite encouraging, because just like you've mentioned, what we need now is to have a system that actually allows businesses to thrive, and of a system that allows foreign investment to thrive as well. And if you're not able to look at the grand factor that actually propels the development of economy at that grassroots level, such as issues around the electricity, just like I said, you need to have an adequate power supply, and also look at your manufacturing sector, how you can actually create this kind of infrastructure that allows people to also manufacture goods and services at the small scale level. So there are so many investment opportunities in Nigeria, but the issue is that the entry business in Nigeria is like survival of the fittest, and it's not supposed to be like that, because if you do not have from the government level like policies or interventions that are tailored, that encourage,
because people don't get loan, it's very hard. In this time, we've seen a lot of businesses find it very difficult to get sub-grants and loans just because to inject into their businesses. And we were talking about the issue of power, and we've seen recently that federal government have made a move to purchase meters just to have in the metering condition. Now, looking at the issue of banding, banding people on A, B, C, how effective has that been? Because some people said even the hours you were meant to supply for band A, we can't even see enough electricity. Some people are saying, it's too expensive and all of that. How do we balance all of this, where we know that we have to generate funds, of course, in the power sector, and also we have to make it stable in the country?
Yeah, because now if you look at what is going on now, the increase in the electricity tariff is also one of the problems that actually compound the inflation, ranging from inflation to a hike in the electricity tariff. Also compounded the economic challenges that we are facing, especially from people who actually on a very poor minimum wage. Do you understand? Because if you look at the amount to pay in electricity bills now, plus the amount to buy fuel, so all these things are actually affecting people from actually saving up money to do other things they need to do. So if government can actually look at it from that angle, you find out that there's some urgent attention needs to be given to ensure that even this band A, band B they created is not even sustainable, because some people are also not getting sufficient light and they are paying more than they are paying before. So I don't know whether it's a technical issue, because sometimes you find out that the amount of unit you buy is even lesser than what you are getting before, even when you are placed on that band A and band B. So I think it's something that government should be able to create an atmosphere that allows the operations of the power generating companies to be able to work within the policies of the government, so that there will be fairness and equity. on power distribution.
Let us look at the federal government, for instance, now, and these small-scale businesses who are trying to thrive in this harsh economy. When you talk about this removal of fuel subsidy, electricity tariff, unemployment rate, and all of that encompassed, let us compare. Let's just weigh that balance. Do you think there's not enough balance between small-scale businesses and, of course, these foreign investors who are coming into Nigeria to thrive? The federal government, what do you think they should do to create a balance between these two?
Yeah, because it seems like we are more like a pattern on a capitalist system, that small businesses are actually suffering because they don't have a lot of funds to operate their businesses.
Exactly.
But rather, foreign investors who are also bringing their money here are also establishing big businesses. Of course, if they are going to create jobs, but what about our small-scale industries? What platform has government created for them? Such like maybe having them access loans or giving them opportunities where they can easily access loans from bank, and also create some policies that actually favors them to grow their businesses without hassle. So if attention is not given to these service sectors and all these small-scale industries, it will definitely continue to hamper, because most of the percentage of the people who are doing business falls within this category. So I think that more emphasis should be given on that sector so that there will be a large-scale economic growth.
Talking about access of loans, do you think the interest rates attached to these loans are too high for small-scale businesses to actually thrive when it comes to...
And also the payback mechanism.
Exactly.
Because sometimes we find that government have been given all of loan, but the repayment
payback and of course the interest
put a lot of Nigeria's economy down.
Government can actually give like interest-free loan. These are some of the policies they need to come up in order to revive the economy, especially when you're not looking at small-scale businesses, how they can thrive. Because currently this the interest rate is actually very high, and that is why a lot of people are actually scared of going to bank to even ask for loan. Because if you have a business that you're also operating with high cost of, your operation cost is very high, and you're also having a debt you are servicing at the same time, you find out that it's actually difficult for you to cope. So governments, if they are looking at the economic reality of Nigeria today, and they are putting the small-scale businesses at the forefront of reviving the economy, they should be able to create policies that actually tailor to support and encourage them. I don't see a reason why somebody should be paying as high as 30% of a loan that you collected to do business, and of course all those things are being controlled and regulated by Central Bank of Nigeria, which is the apex bank that also have to monitor and ensure that they provide the necessary support and facilities for for these businesses to grow.
Let's look at the graduates who are looming the streets at the moment. We know that we have lots of graduates who have been in school 5 years. Some have spent a lot of years due to the strike in and out of school and all of that. What do you think is the future of these individuals who have decided outside the four walls of the tertiary institution, they've gone out to learn other vocational skills, and yet they cannot start up a small-scale business in this present harsh economy?
So that is what we are talking about now. When we are saying the government should create opportunities for businesses to thrive, there should be a strategic intervention in this area. You mentioned about vocational skills.
True.
So when people are, are graduates and they could not find the white-collar job, and they still go and learn, one skill or the other, but now they are being stuck by the money to start up, something they have learned. Maybe it could be tailoring, it could be catering, it could be anything like that. It can even be motor mechanic. So, but if they do not have just minimum capital so why don't government create like a large-scale intervention around this area? So, okay, we encourage you because, we want you to be self-sufficient. You can, create a job by means of your own skills. So, but we are going to support you with some amount of money,
Okay.
So these are some of the things that government should be able to come up, because look, the idea of youth roaming in the streets, especially graduates and undergraduates who could not even continue with their tuition fees, I think is becoming getting out of control.
Okay.
And something needs to be done about that.
There was some time 2 weeks ago, I had a guest on the program, and he said something. He said, Nigerians, we feel self-entitled. We are so self-entitled that we feel the government is supposed to do every single thing for us. What's your take on this? Because for everything we say the government, the government, the government. We as individuals, how can we thrive
outside that path, or do you agree that the government, we are too self-entitled when it comes to every single thing we say is the government?
Well, it's also about when you talk about the government have the responsibilities, but then as an individual, of course, you know that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams, because nobody actually, in the race of success, nobody is held accountable, because in the sense that if you are able to work very hard, regardless of the ups and downs, and you succeed or you become successful at the end of the day, you will be the first person to take, that proud, in your achievement, right? So it is not enough to always, lay blames on the government, because government have their own limitations, all right? So it should also lay more emphasis on the kind of education that our children goes through. Do we have education system that actually, build that resilience in them, that actually make them to understand that, look, even without government, you can succeed, through by means of creativity, innovation, and of course, learning new skills. So if our education system are programmed in a way that young people can see what they can actually do with their own talent, do you understand? We have seen, testimonies, or we have seen situations where people from nowhere, they were able to create amazing things, we were able to, build teamwork even within the school premises, and were able to come up with something great. So the moment we have this generation that their education focus are tailored around, innovation and creativity, you can always have, and of course leadership, you can always have this kind of young people who are able to thrive against odds. So at that point, find out that the role of the government will always be around, providing the basic amenities that they need to succeed, not necessarily waiting for government to create all the whole jobs, because government cannot create the entire job. Rather, we have to design an education system that actually makes people to, want to become employers of labor. They can create jobs by themselves, and also yes, of course, provide goods and services. And they cannot do that if the kind of education they receive or they are meant to receive are only programmed around, getting certificates, and some of these certificates they cannot even defend it and all of that. So there's always a burden on government on how they are going to cope after they are graduates. But if you have education that is modeled around people harnessing their own inner potentials, that they're discovering what they can do from a very young, that's why I talk about early versus late development of a child. We need to have some kind of leadership-based education where an individual will assume the sense of leadership from a childhood, so that leadership is encompasses both entrepreneurship, which, and all,
at the early stage
spectrum, so that they can begin to imagine their own future. Do you understand? So the person who created Facebook today did that at the, before he was 25. So you can imagine how ambitious he was when he was, let's say 10, 15 years old. He was already programming the future.
But if you look at it, the environment has not made it conducive for individuals to program for their future. The economy is harsh, and even anyone would tell you.
Factors like powers factor, when you're trying to also think, you can have lights for you to be able to do.
So how can you...
all of these issues, we have internal factors that is also
very true.
That.
Yeah, that's why personally I believe in we are working actually trying to create partnerships around food security, because everything else is still centered around hunger. First of all, people need to have a means of livelihood, which shelter, clothing, and food is the basic things. So if government were able to work on these basic things, at least at that tender age, a child should be able to feed well, because all these things still boils down to your mental mental faculty, your reasoning, your mental strength. So if you do not feed well as a child growing up, you're already faced with a lot of harsh realities of life. So it begins to alter your worldview. But if from a fundamental stage there's enough food, you will not be surprised that these Gen Zs right now, I think some of them, the children that were born in these decades, or in within this decade and the previous decades, they actually going through a lot in terms of how much malnutrition they have to suffer and all of that, because it wasn't like that maybe during the time we grew up,
because there was not as much insecurity that we have now compared to
food insecurity. Because as a child, you come back from school, even though you come from an average family, at least there's something to eat. But we recently found out that children are meant to go and beg before they can feed. So
I was about coming to that. There is high level of moral decadence in the society today. And we are now forced to ask, who are those who will be blamed? Sometimes people say parents, sometimes people say society, sometimes people will just have a way of trying to where do we get it wrong? Because, I mean, look at what is happening in the society today. From the headlines we had that a naval officer have to, kill because of a vehicle, just
SUV
because of the SUV Prado. We've seen people do terrible things, that ordinary, are the things that we never imagined that, existed or people could do it. We've seen victimization. We've seen a whole lot. Where did we get it wrong in the society to be having this current high level of moral decadence?
Yeah, the thing is that we have reached a point where our value system is threatened, and if something is not done urgently to reverse this trend, of course, you can be rest assured it's going to get worse in times to come.
Is it because of the culture? Sometimes the Gen Zs are saying new things are changing. We are in a new era. So there's a shift of cultural move. You feel that's a wave that is giving rise to all of this.
But then even Chinese, as over 2,000 years now, they have preserved their culture, the Japanese, So it's all about how much we as indigenous people actually recognize the role our culture plays in our own development. Okay, because if you watch even our own education system, for example, I think there's this understanding that history is removed from our school curriculum, for example. So it also boils down to how our leaders actually try to preserve our own culture, because if you do not preserve your culture, what legacy are you leaving for the younger generation? So if we are trying to deal with issues of cultural decadence or moral decadence here, we should be able to go back to the basics, ranging from the media, what we portray, the children, what they see, the kind of education that is they program their worldview around alien cultures and how they actually the inferiority complex, because they find out that people actually now beginning to appreciate other people's culture more than theirs. So you begin to wonder what is wrong with our own culture. And average Nigerian want to dress like American, they want to exhibit what they see in the movies and all of that. So do we have programs around our education that deliberately targeting at reviving our cultural and moral consciousness?
Talking about moral and consciousness, I think for me, I don't know, what's your take when it comes to the home front? I think parents, guardians have a stronger role to play in preserving this culture. Like you said, people look at other people's cultural ethics and they want to be like them when it comes to the whites and all of that. But I think we as Africans, as Nigerians, we cannot leave everything in the hands of leaders. In the home front, they say charity begins at home. So if parents still keep that traditional value and tell you, okay, in the morning, this is how we say good morning, keeping those cultural values very important. I think it will go a long way in the upbringing and the horizon of a child. Don't you think so?
Yeah, of course, you're right, because just like I said, I use myself as an example. When we are growing up, if you do a wrong thing and an elder, very close, happen to admonish you, your mother will come and even scold at you because you have done the wrong thing. But it's quite different these days. You see a child going the other way around, and an elder tries to caution him or her. The parents will even start creating an issues because he believes it's my child. So it's all about how these parents take responsibility of raising their own children. And of course, another factor is the issue of the way we prioritize money over values in our own generation right now, because in the past, they said, legacy, good names are better than riches. But now it seems that, money is over everything. So if you're parents and, coupled with, poverty and a whole lot of issues around, livelihood, you can find out that parents are even losing control over their own children because of what they are bringing home. So a child will now go, this child is not working and is coming with, spending money at home, and you don't have, you may, some of them lost the right to even ask them questions. What do you do for a living? We have seen situations where parents know quite well that this child is, engaging in some, what's this one?
Cybercrime,
unethical activities just to, make money, and they know, some of them know, but they cannot question that because so the values will now attach to money as a means of, defining one's personality or one's status.
This is survival of the fittest right now, so everybody trying to make survival out of it. That means it's also a challenge, because if we don't address this issue of unemployment, if we don't address this issue of hunger, if we don't address this issue of poverty and all insecurity, that means all of this is not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think if something is not done about that, and also when we're talking about issue of morality, we also look at it from ideological perspectives. Because if you watched recently, there's things like there's a dynamic shift in terms of thought process of people that feel so marginalized. Okay, there is this ideology that actually portrays that they are not comfortable with the rich. I think the Karl Marx law will come to play very soon. It's already playing out when the rich, the poor rise against the rich. Because I was coming back from a trip, a couple of days ago, and it's quite shocking to see what I experienced on the road. Just try to come to a checking point, and let me not just mention, but one of these guys, the security agencies on the road, he made a very, comment that is worrisome, because perhaps he felt that maybe the kind of car we are using, we are more like we coming from a political background. He said you guys will enjoy in this world, we will enjoy in heaven. So it got me wondering. So because if as a security operative at that level you are meant to, and you already, and it was very, very brutal when making this comment. So there is this already animosity. This is a security personnel anger. Like, you guys are living flamboyant life. Let's say we are moving with a Hilux van and all of that. You don't even know what we do, but he felt. Do you understand? So he expressed some.
You're using taxpayers' money.
Yes. So we are enjoying that. Then them too, their own reward is in heaven and all of that. So it's also an issue of ideology now, because if some group of people are feeling now that the government has betrayed them or disappointed them, so the only option they have is just to be brutal in their mind, and whatever they can do to actually justify their vengeance, of course, to them is permissible. So we should always begin to look at psychologically, how does people actually feel, how does people relate with government and the leaders, and what impression do they create at every point in time.
All right. The president is appealing to Nigerians. When you look at some of the policies he has introduced, like the fuel subsidy, he said, that it's evil, that we need to remove these things so as the economy to survive. So many appeal, many the fact that he said, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, give me some more time, what we are doing will materialize, to help the economy. But Nigerians are insisting. When you look at the first 10 days of this month, issues of other protests that rocked the country, people were insisting hunger, hardship, not even listening to the president. And do you feel that there is a lack of trust somewhere from the part of the people and government, knowing to the fact that government are communicating, but the people are not listening? Government are introducing some reforms and interventions, but the people are not appreciating it. And this also creates a whole lot of tension, where even the protesters are saying, we will be back on the street again for another protest. Government don't think that it is over. What do you think is a problem?
Yeah, the major problem, Michael, is that we have a situation that is actually spiraling out of control, which is the issue around, starvation, where people are no longer able to afford food. So it becomes a very complex one, because if now people are beginning to look at our political elites, how well they are living, and someone will imagine, so if this person that is being elected or is being appointed and is being serviced, his bills are being paid by our own money, our collective treasure, and other people can't even afford water to drink. So it creates some level of animosity, distrust. So I think on the immediate, government should look at interventions that actually ease the tension on livelihood. A lot of analysts and experts have advised government to even reverse back the first subsidy that you said you removed, because if you're able to reduce the cost of fuel at this moment, regardless of anyhow you want to go about it, you see that it eases the tension on the economy. But the government also are not, and I don't think they have any plan of doing that anytime soon. And if those measures are not taken, whereby this issue of fuel scarcity, fuel price are not taken under control, you should continue to create issues that always take people on the street.
Let us look at the efforts of this present administration. Do you think they're making enough efforts for people to sit back and say, oh, there is hope, we're getting somewhere? Or what are they actually doing? We're not going forward, we're not going back, we're just in the middle, in your own opinion?
I think, the issue with Nigeria is not a problem that can solve just within one day.
True.
Government too, on their own part, I think they are also trying, because shortly after this protest, we have seen some reforms, we have seen some proactive measures whereby, the president himself is constantly engaged some stakeholders, try to see how they can come up with an urgent solutions to address some of this governance deficit. All right, but then just like I said, there are some interventions that need to be meted out on a very short term, so that the impact can be felt on the economy. Where some of these projects, it takes some time before you can begin to see the impact on the economy. But then we should also pay attention on this issue of FX. If the central government, if the Central Bank of Nigeria have any magic they can do, or whatever investment government needs to make to ensure that our FX is stabilized to a point that at least, that if we can get dollars to be sold at the rate of 1,000 naira now, I think it's even, it's like a way progress. But at this current rate now, it's still like, we are not making any progress because it still go back to the economy. So it's that devaluation of naira is also still the same point. It's like we are now, reinventing the wheel, because no matter how many amount of money you have and you go to the market, it's just like you're just buying only a few items, plenty money chasing few goods. So issue around our economy, I think the experts should be able to sit down and see how they can create values around our foreign exchange so they can earn more foreign exchange than, and of course invest in manufacturing and invest in critical sectors that can create local jobs and also be able to revenue. We can invest more in agriculture to be able to export food and export raw materials and as well. So these are the issues. Otherwise, it will continue to create this kind of challenges where people are always agitating.
A very big thank you to Mr. Farouk, the founder of a culture organization, in terms of also helping to build confidence among Nigerians. Thanks so much for all you do and your analysis on the program this morning.
Thank you for being a part of the program, and thank you for being a part of Global Morning.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we'll go on a break. Once we return from the break, we'll be looking at issues of forced migration. Many countries are having to grapple with this issue. So we're looking at that issues. Of course, we'll have an expert with an experienced and retired assistant immigration officer will be joining us on the program to give us perspective to these issues and what we have to know. Do stay with us on the program. We'll be right back.
Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
Who are these bandits? It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Gonna shot it, squares it, into the back.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momadou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Beautiful work from the wingers.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumain Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and it repeats every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
There are more forcible displaced people around the world as of today. An over projection of over 117.3 million people have been forced to flee their homes due to violence, conflict, natural disasters, and economic geopolitical upheaval. I'm being joined this morning by a legal practitioner and a retired assistant comptroller of Nigerian Immigration Service, Comptroller General of Immigration Service, Dr. Oke Ozogu Esquire. Of course, who understand better, and also a director of Asylum and Refugee Rights Advocate, who understand better what it means for the global refugee crisis are experiencing in the world. We'll try as much as possible to also narrow it to the Nigeria context and Africa. Thanks so much, Doctor, for joining us this morning on the program.
Good to have me here.
A lot have been said about the crisis of the projection of over 117 million people have been displaced, some forcefully. Before we now come to the push factor of some of these issues, give us a situation report from your own analysis. You've been an experienced immigration officer. You understand better why people are migrating illegally or legally. What's the true situation of things away from the statistics we have?
Thank you very much, Mike. Like I said earlier when we were talking outside the studio, the problem of refugee has become global. It's no longer regional, it's no longer sub-regional. It's no longer just national, like you talk of a country now. It has become so global, and it's alarming. And you know why it is even more worrisome is because of the number you just mentioned, which is 117 million displaced persons. And we're having about, out of that number, we're having about 43 points, forcibly displaced and all that. Now, the number of people who are under the age of 18, that is where it is more alarming. And we're talking of a situation where young people's future has virtually come to an end, abrupt end. Those of them who are in school, those of them who are in other things they are doing at that age, it's always the age where you begin to mold the people, mold young people. Because if you don't get it right at that stage, they derail. They go out from there. And when they get out from there, you can hardly arrest them again. But that is this number. That's where we have the highest number of almost half of the entire displaced persons come within that range of 18 years. And many of them are actually dependent on their parents. Many of them are probably on their own, depending on the situation in their various countries. But what is important is that government at various levels, not Nigerian government alone, we are talking of government globally, should begin to get interested in this refugee problem. People have never migrated like this before in the past, not even during the slave trade. People have never migrated this much. Today, go visit any of the embassies in Nigeria here. As early as 6 a.m. in the morning, people are already queuing up. Everybody appears to be scampering for safety. And you begin to wonder, when is this going to end? When is it going to end? Because it doesn't look like the end is in sight. So, to come to your question practically, things are not going well for the young people in so many countries of the world.
And that's why it's really encouraging these people to...
Yes. Any news about, if you go to the next country, you're going to get this, get that, they paint a little picture of any place better than where they are. The next day they are exploring.
Does it look like this is another slave trade? Because when you understand what happened during the slave trade, it was quite different. But right now, forcing people to leave or migrate, what are the push factor? Because we could understand what factors was contributing to people to be sold out for slavery as at that time. Looking at what is happening now, the current trend, what are those really push factors?
Well, yes, we are talking of push factors. But first of all, let's talk about the first, and the slave trade you are talking about. Now, when you are talking of displaced persons, it's not as if somebody will get to them and say, hey, come on, you must leave this place and go to elsewhere. No. It's not as if somebody will come and say, I don't want to see you here. I want to see you in the other place. It is circumstance. It is circumstance. And like we have always identified, some people are displaced, even natural elements, like flooding, like famine. I mean, there's no food anywhere. And of course, anybody who is hungry will begin to look at a place where he can now go and begin to get food.
Which is normal.
Which is normal. So they are forced. They are mandatorily forced. Mandatorily because on their own they choose to. Or voluntarily forced, really. Voluntarily forced, not mandatorily. Voluntarily forced. Because on their own they choose to. Because where they found themselves appears not comfortable enough for them. They now decide on their own to move to the next place. That's one area. If you are talking of the slave trade you mentioned, it's not in all circumstances. Not all of them pass through the same process that leads them to come face to face with a situation where they are being traded, as in the slave trade era. The only area we can talk about such a situation is when you talk about the Maghreb. When I'm talking about Libya, Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, within the Maghreb region. For instance, a takeoff point here in Nigeria, somebody lives in Nigeria and say he wants to go to Spain, for instance. He takes off from here in Nigeria, let's say around Sokoto State. He leaves Sokoto and head to Niger. Gets into Niger where, from information we are getting, there's a camp where some of them are kept. And at that stage, to the best of their knowledge, they are going there to have the best of time. But unfortunately, as soon as they leave a place like Niger and begin to head towards Agadez, the dance tune changes. It's at that point they now lose control of themselves. They can no longer decide exactly what to do with their lives. People now say, hey, you must do this, you must do that. And as soon as they begin to pass through Agadez and begin to get into Libya proper, certain merchants takes over from there. And as soon as the merchants take over, they pay for them and begin to put prices on their heads. That look, for me to leave you, to go and be a free person out there, you must pay me this kind of money. You must offset all I've paid to get you here. And it's a recurring decimal within the Maghreb region. That is the one I know about, slavery thing. Then the other one is on the human trafficking side proper, where even the underaged ones are trafficked, without their knowledge, of course, because it's just like somebody coming to you. And in most cases, when they want to do this, they do this to people who are very close to you. They can come to you and say, okay, you live in Spain. Yes, I live in Spain. He introduced himself. He lives in Spain. He's gone to Spain. Look at my shop. Oh, look at where I work. Look at where I live and all of that. And trust our usual system. The person begin to build, staircases, imaginations, let me see how I can get to those places, and when I get there, this is how it's going to be, and all of that. Fine. By the time the person gets there, the game changes. In fact, most cases from information we're getting...
Those things were false.
Oh, false, yes. You discover that they're not true.
Some of them are not even residing there.
They are not even residing there. Some of them are just traders, merchants. In fact, it is a cartel. Are you getting me? It's not a one-man thing. And unfortunately, the cartel that engages in this, they are so sophisticated and well-moneyed. They have a very strong war chest. to even fight any system. The same cartel is in charge of all the criminality going around the world globally. Drug trade, arms dealings, human trafficking, smuggling of persons, and all of that.
Is it for labor purpose, some of these trafficking?
Well, it depends. It depends. For instance, we have the underage laborers. Some of them, they take the young girls, young people, and then send them into plantations and all of that to go and they begin to do manual labor. We have such cases.
In those countries?
In those countries. Then we have the young girls, of course, who they push into prostitution.
In those countries?
Yeah, in those countries. Like the countries I've mentioned already, like in Libya, for instance, is very common there. In fact, most cases of trafficking in persons, tailored towards this area, where the young girls are practically taken away to go and become prostitutes, to raise money for whoever is their master. At least we saw one recently now. We heard about the Ghana case. We've heard about how many cases from Ghana where Nigerians have been taken away, Nigerian girls. At other time, we had almost about 200 or something from Imo State. We had another group of about how many? I think about 15 or so. Katsina, Kano, they spread all over. Then, of course, we've had cases even from Enugu here, where we've had cases of some children being taken away from them. But there is something that is definite about this. One thing that is common among all of them. People who take them away are not strangers. People who take them away are not strangers. There are people they know. In most cases, the parents are aware of them. They know them. They know that, hey, come on, this is an uncle, or this is a brother, or this is my brother's friend who normally comes around, and and when they come, and such people, they are so generous that when they come in, they begin to give, and before you know it, the parents begin to key into such an arrangement, and immediately he said, why not, I'm going back so and so period, why can't I take this person and go? Then you just see that the parents are bought over already.
So, this also raises questions of how they move, how they are able to live. When you look at issue of border placement and all of that, can you confirm to us the possible routes they're using, in carrying out some of these illegality?
Well, I must be honest to you that the geographical spread of this country is a large one. If we are taking Nigeria as a case study now, because the picture I'm painting, it transcends every other country. Somalia, the Gaza you're talking about, and so many countries. Ghana, most West African countries, most other African countries, especially where there's upbeat about economic strife and things like that. These are areas where they are drawn from. You understand? But like I said, I did mention that it's a cartel. If we take Nigeria as an example, the geographical spread, the size of the country is so large.
Do they have their own route?
It's so large. Even in developed economies, developed countries like US and the rest of them, they have not been able to stop people from passing through their border. It has become almost impossible. The best you can do is keep your officers on alert. Of course, at the moment, I'm aware that the Nigerian Immigration Service has that upbeat technologically, to monitor, in monitoring and surveillance activities along the borders to be able to know who is coming in and who is not coming in and all of that. That is the best anybody can do. But to say that you can stay there and stop anybody completely, or stop people completely from coming into any country, it will be difficult. Okay, let's take some of the areas we know very well. Okay, look at a place like Cross River, Akwa Ibom, where you have the blue borders. When I talk of blue borders, I'm talking of the waterways and the rest of them. In some of the areas, some of the villages, you have more than 30, 40 waterways that empties into the Atlantic. Are you getting me? Some of the areas are so swampy. Of course, the locals, who are always part of this cartel, they know the route very well. And they are the ones that serve as guides to ensure that whatever you want to do there, you do that. They get away with most of these things because of local connivance. And it transcends from the highest level of persons in such communities to the least one. You understand? So it is possible for somebody to just drive in now with a boat and bat in any part of the areas I'm mentioning now. For instance, in Crossover, where you have 18 local governments, and 10 of them are border local governments with Cameroon. And I think about 8 of them or so are within the waterways. So where do you start from? Of course, the deployments are there, the Navy, they are there. Immigration services, they are there, customs, all manner of agencies are there. But like I said, nowhere in the world has it been possible for any country to stop people from filtering into their own country. It's been very difficult.
Now, I mean, there are very push factors. Some of these are issues of flooding, just as you mentioned, the natural disasters we're also being confronted with. Sometimes many people, and the insecurity, we're going to come to issues of insecurity a bit, just to be able to see how this can be addressed, and the war many countries are currently facing. We see Gaza. I mean, it's quite very disheartening that for a good number of months right now, they have been confronted with a whole lot, the death recorded, even with assistance sent to the countries. All is not, I mean, really, really working. And people have been forced to migrate in this country. Are there laws that, try to see what they can do for protection of these ones? Because, I mean, these are the people who voluntarily, as you had rightly stated, had to leave for their safety, for their life, which is important for them.
Yeah, I must be honest to you that this country is not bereft of ideas, and we're not bereft of laws. The laws are there, and that is replicated in so many countries all over the world.
So you have issues of implementation.
It's issues of implementation. There's no aspect of our security architecture. There's no aspect of the protection of the citizens of any country that is not captured within the framework of their legal environment. But for inexplicable reasons, and most cases for political reasons, people who are supposed to midwife and safeguard some of these provisions look the other way, especially when it either affects them or the other way around. It depends. But as for the laws, they are there. If you are talking of refugees, for instance, the refugee situation is not just a domestic one, like I said. It is not just a subnational thing. It is not a regional thing. It has become global. And the UN is neck deep into it. In our own case in Nigeria here, we have the Diaspora Commission. We have the National Refugee Commission and Migrant, whatever. They're all there. The provisions are there. The provisions are there. And I must be honest to you, the minders of these agencies are doing the much they can. But like I did mention to you, the situation is getting more overwhelming. The situation is getting more overwhelming. And I think government should be upbeat. Government should do more than the usual theatrics and drama that we keep on hearing on televisions and the rest.
So when you talk of do more, what do you mean?
Yeah, concrete actions. Concrete actions can be a domestic one. Hope. As you are now, if you have hope of surviving tomorrow, you sleep very well this night. You're guaranteed that you'll survive tomorrow. The quantum of sleep you get tonight must definitely be different from when you're not sure of surviving till the next day. Are you getting me? And what I'm saying is not, I'm not talking about Nigeria now, I'm talking about globally. Countries and governments all over the world should begin to cultivate hope in their populace. Let them begin to make them understand that they own the government and that part and parcel of government. Let them begin to feel that the man who is there at the helm of affairs, for instance, is responsible to us. And let them begin to feel that the man cannot just get up there and do whatever he likes without recourse to us. If that is cultivated, then you now begin to see a situation where if you call your country, if somebody abuses your country, or even abuse government, you see somebody saying, will you keep your mouth shut and all that, in defense of an existing system and all of that. You understand? So it's not about whether somebody is part and parcel of the arrangement in government and all that. You see, table turns all the time. We've seen people who are ministers in several countries of the world, and today they are refugees too, and asylum seekers. You understand? Government should come up with a system, an asylum system, for instance, a refugee arrangement, whereby the laws are there. You don't allow people to just begin to wander about and all of that. Yes, the international legal environment guarantees that anybody who is coming to the country as a refugee and all that, you don't drive the person back. You don't drive him. It's also the security, whatever. Yeah, the concern has always been the security. Because, of course, you don't know who is coming in. You don't know what he's coming to do. You're not sure whether he's just masquerading as...
Can't confirm his character.
You can't confirm his character. But fundamentally, the person must be allowed in if there is any reason to believe that he's running away from where he's not safe, where his life is being threatened, either because of race, either because of the political views he holds, either because of including natural disasters, because those days of tsunami, you can't tell somebody who is running away from the tsunami spot to go back. To go back to what? To go and die.
About running to vulnerable countries that also have their own challenges they are confronted with.
Well, in most cases, comparatively, there are countries, some countries are better than the others, comparatively. So if you're now saying you want to run, for instance, let me not mention any country now, but you want to run to the next country, you probably wouldn't know the dynamics, what is happening in that country, until you get there. And that is exactly what is happening to those who engage in this jackpot stuff we're talking about. Everybody wants to go to Europe. But I tell you something, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Nigeria is a place where you have all the opportunities in the whole world. We're only having some leadership challenges, like so many countries all over the world. It comes and goes and all that. And, maybe with time we'll get it right.
Someone, a Nigerian who is earning some dollars may not understand this description because one of the push factors as well, I mean, when you look at the migration, you see the statistics of health. I mean, the Minister of Health was, federal government have made moves for health policy just to be able to see how they can, discourage some of this migration of our doctors and our workers. And over again, we've been looking at issues of institutions. We've been looking at issues of how they can create more conducive environment for people to stay away from the national issues, the issues of political wars and all of that, where people go for greener pasture, and then pushed by the country's economy. Don't you think that is also a signal to the problem that they are losing some of their workforce? Or, is it also helpful for the economy?
Well, let me tell you this. Unfortunately, for people who wants to leave this country, in those days, it's possible for somebody after your school set to get up and say, I want to go and hustle over there, whatever that means. I don't know the meaning of that. I want to go and hustle.
Also means work.
Okay. Now, Today it can't be this. It's no longer the same. For any country to admit you today, you must have something to, instill into their environment positively. Are you getting me? You must have a skill to present. It's no longer a situation where, because you are a professor of whatever in Nigeria, for instance, you want to go over there and begin to parade yourself as a professor. What have you to offer? See, so many people are out there and are telling you about the dollars because you are here, you are hearing the dollar exchange rate and all of that.
Because they're also helping the economy. Some of them are sending it back. If you look at the recent statistics of, what we are getting from them.
But they are not telling you what they are passing through over there. After payment, do you know that it's a Herculean task for anybody to begin to say, I saved $5,000 in a year over there.
Into what?
Because of what they pay for. There's always something to pay for.
A whole lot of bills.
Let me tell you, if the economy, if our national currency is stable enough, I can assure you many people will be going there. 2, tell me what a 60-year-old man is going over there to go and do.
I mean, somebody that have worked and retired.
What are you going to do? And that is the vogue now. You see professors, people in their 60s, everybody wants to migrate to Europe, America, and the rest of them. What are you going to do? Over there already, the people you are going to meet who are your compeers, your age mates, have already retired from their public service and are enjoying their pension over there, a very stable pension. And now you want to go there. And you see many of them sitting down all day in Europe, lamenting, comparing notes, and all that. That's what they do every day. They just sit down there and tell you, see, these people are doing it well. If it's in Nigeria, Nigeria is not doing it well. If it is this is it. They keep on sitting down there grumbling and comparing notes because they are outside the age bracket. Younger elements, yes, can go there and begin to hazard some skills in ICT and the rest of them, but not at that old age. You understand? And it's not about getting the dollars. If you get dollars over there, fine. You have people at home here, maybe about 10 of them who are not working, for instance. And then you send dollars to take care of them. Question is, will you ever come back home someday? It gets a stage in your life overseas that you begin to feel that there's nothing left for you to stay over there and do. That you just need to come back home.
All right, Doctor, issues of how we can combat these issues that are confronted by the society. We've talked about implementation of these policies. We've talked about all of those. What other factor might be contributive in combating this?
The solution to it?
Yes.
Good governance. Just good governance. I've told you about hope. And hope is encompassing now. Because if a child, you as a person, just as we are here now, maybe you have 1,000 naira in your pocket and you're sure that when you get out there, that 1,000 naira will give you a good breakfast. It gives you all the joy in the whole world. But when you're not looking for another 1,000 naira or 2 to make up, to be able to eat, the conjectures, the thoughts about how do I get this money alone is killing. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, let the leaders all over the world provide good governance and begin to appreciate that there's a limit to these acquisitions people are making. There's a limit to it. As a matter of fact, no matter how rich you are, you sleep on one bed at a time. You sleep in a room at a time. You cannot sleep in 10 different houses at a time. You are even acquiring so much for the generation unborn, including your children. You think that at the end of the day, you don't want your generation to become poor. What if they wake up tomorrow and decide to sell off all the whole thing? What if tomorrow you end up having one of these miscreants among them, maybe a drug addict or something, and they begin to mess up with everything you leveled for?
We've seen that happening.
It's happening. So if we begin to develop that consciousness of morals in our government system, if we begin to develop that contentment, that level of contentment that will come on. But at a certain age in your life, I must be honest to you, there are things you don't need anymore. There's a limit to your consumption pattern. You could be struggling all your life for years to make money. And then sometimes you run some kilometers to go and drink because somebody wants to offer you a free beer, you know. You understand? But do you know that at a stage, when this money starts coming, you could be within a certain age bracket, and then the doctor will step in and tell you, hey, don't do this. Don't drink this. Meat that you crave for, oh, you want to eat meat and all that. You cannot look at eat that. You are now at the mercy of whatever your doctor is telling you. You now see the futility on those things you have amassed and all that.
Contentment is the key.
Yes. And that is why Nest of Kings are very brutal with spending, because they don't know how you get it.
They never work for it.
They never work for it.
All right, let's look at the issue of humanitarian aid. Most often time, even the United Nations, they were calling for humanitarian aid for some countries, first with these Syria and all of those countries.
Yes.
How do you feel that we're tapping that effectively, tapping into this and implementation of that? Because it therefore means that people are looking for help, and then there is a policy that is meant to compel, some of those provisions.
See, the first thing I want us to learn as a people is the fact that the moment there is a displacement or there is a disconnect between the government, the people, and establishments, as it were, one of the things you see is crisis, like the thing we're all seeing, not only in Nigeria, every other place. I want us to begin to draw lessons from so many countries who have become just a country for the sake of answering the names. We've seen Somalia. It is the politicians that brought Somalia to what it is today. We are seeing we saw what is happening in Syria. It is the politicians that brought Syria to their knees. One of the most vibrant countries we had in Africa, Libya, today is in ruins. Activities of politicians. Iraq today is in ruin. Activities of politicians. Can we be drawing lessons from some of these countries? Because the recklessness we all exhibit, I'm not talking about government, I'm not talking, I and you exhibit in affairs of this country, in things affecting us. The day it gets to the level of some of the countries we are talking about, you now begin to appreciate that where we are today is the best anybody could be or can be. No country gets into such mess and come out alive again. Rwanda is just one of the miracle countries I can talk about, where you have that level of genocide, you have that level of crisis, and at the end of the day, the people came together again and became one. Unfortunately, people who are amassing all the wealth and thinking that they can never get done with it, that crisis I'm talking about, if it's invited into this country by our ways and means and the ways we do our things, all those things you think you put up everywhere will go down in ruins. We're seeing where? Ukraine. Ukraine is in ruins today. No matter what anybody is talking about, whether they're winning in war, whether they're gaining ground anywhere, what is important is that so many people are displaced. So many people can no longer get it right anymore. Look at Gaza. Somebody must have said, oh, come on, let's do this, do that, and take one or two actions. And they did. But like somebody who sets fire in a bush, this is where you set the fire. You can no longer say where the fire will end up. And it will be a miracle. I'm not wishing them. I'm not a negative thinker, but I know that before ever peace returns to that area anymore in this world, it will be difficult. It's going to take a very long time. So what I'm trying to say is that government should just do what they ought to do and begin to make the people part and parcel of government. Make the people begin to have trust in government. Because you see, the moment there's a breach of trust between the people and government,
it's a problem.
It's a problem. So that trust must be built by all means. By government, by individuals, by institutions. It's not just Mr. President. Because each time people talk about, oh, president, government. Go to some of the establishments, institutions, even private concerns, and see what is happening there. And you begin to wonder. It's not just in coming out to begin to lampoon government and begin to talk down on government. No, it doesn't end there. At your own small level, where you're managing a people.
So what's the people's responsibility? What would you advise?
There are things that you ought to do as a person. There are civic responsibilities. Any country, anybody who is a citizen of any country knows that there are responsibilities fostered on him or her by the laws of the land, by the constitution of the land. Everybody has his right. And don't begin to make it look like this man has no right because he's not in government. Don't begin to make it look like you choose the laws you want to obey because it does not affect you. Tomorrow the table could turn, and the person you're dealing with because you think you have all the powers could be in government too. So if he continues like that, where are we ending up? It becomes unending.
So everybody always struggling to be in government.
Oh, yes.
It seems lucrative enough.
Well, I don't know about the lucrativeness, but I know that the impunity that goes with it is voluminous. And I think a lot of people appear to enjoy that impunity more than even every other thing in government. Imagine somebody walks in now and slap you and tell you can't do anything.
Go to court.
Go to court.
All right, as we begin to round up, what is the assessment of Nigeria's humanitarian response plan? That was developed in 2023. Because when you look at Borno State, Adamawa, all of those states, yes, look for help. We have a ministry, humanitarian affairs. Recently, we've seen the allegations on that ministry, which was, to also alleviate some of the challenges we're facing, poverty alleviations and all of this, to respond to, humanitarian crises in the country and all of that. We've seen high number of people migrating, migrating, having to displace right there in a federal capital territory. You go to some area like in the Durumi areas and all of that, you can see those homes. And if you visit those areas, doctor, it has the worst state. There's investment so far. There's funds, relegated to that kind of a responsibility. What's the assessment of humanitarian plan?
Well, to the level of government, at the level of government, it looks like they are doing much. But the impact is where the problem is. It's not about releasing so much money for humanitarian services. It's about ensuring that this money and what they are meant for are delivered. The dividends of such humanitarian activities, if they are not interfered with, if people don't purify out of it, if those who are managers of these humanitarian activities have human conscience, government at the level of releasing fund, like I said, must be doing well. But what happens between the release of the fund and the delivery of these dividends to the people who are supposed to benefit from it, that's where the problem is. And my assessment is that
nothing
is happening. Yes.
The government have done their part. It's just about people that are managing
it's not about government cannot do your part. You see, you don't just come and, let me tell you. When you release money, you follow up.
But that's the issue we've been confronting with this country.
You release money, you follow up.
They will tell you over 570 billion to state government. But how far can we really see the impact of this?
Somebody tells you that he spent, let's say, 10 million naira in a community. And how did you spend the money? Because you gave each household or certain level of persons who are not, let's say below poverty line now, that you gave them maybe 10,000 naira. In most cases, these people are not even traceable. Who did you give? How did you give? And in a country where we don't even have birth register, death register, and whatever. Claims can be
statistics.
So people can just say, I took care of 500,000 people in so and so place, and it becomes real, but of course imagined. So what I'm trying to say is that government should do more than releasing fund to government officials to go and begin to engage in humanitarian activities. They should do more than that. And part of it is to go make sure that when they do this, release this money, let them track and ensure that these monies and the dividends they are meant for are taken to where they are meant for to go.
Of course, we can't really exhaust the conversation, but of course, we'll still be having more of that awareness, because it's also a way of trying to create an alert for people to start knowing what's happening and what other people are having to face in the society. A very big thank you to you, legal practitioner and retired assistant comptroller general of Nigerian Immigration Service, Dr. Oke Ezeugo. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we'll go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll be wrapping it up with Jamai. Do stay with us.
But by your name, you say global. So global is a big coverage. So you are taking a big name, but you are starting from from scratch. So that big name.
You're welcome back, and yes, it's still Global Morning. Well, this is where we draw the curtains at this juncture, and of course, Dr. Oke has done justice when it comes to relating to the issues on ground, individuals who are displaced, right, Michael? Talking about individuals, their livelihood, and they have to run to IDP camps.
At the point of them running to somewhere, they still can't really find help. Issues of humanitarian aid are also a problem. So it's where government and the people must always seek to respond to issues like these, so that we can create an environment safer for everyone.
It's very important. And of course, this is where we draw the curtains. And thank you all so much for being a part of Global Morning today. And a quick reminder that all the views of our guests are their own personal opinions, not global television. And I am Jumai Manson, and my nice-looking co-host today. Tell us your name, please.
I'm Edika Baika. Many thanks for staying with us. We really appreciate it. Again, we'll see you tomorrow where we'll take a look at other issues. Do still stay with us on all the programs for today.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death
toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASIS strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.